Nicole Huntsman here from moderncosmic.com. We have got our sun sign compatibility here on this video. If you know what sun sign means, fast forward to the timestamp you see or the description of the video. So in Western astrology, we take the year, the 12 calendar months, okay? And we divide them up according to the Earth's relationship to the sun. And this makes sense if you think back in the day when we were farmers. The movement of the sun, it's actually our movement, the tilt of our Earth relative to the sun and how it affects the seasons was very important. Springtime, time to plant, summertime to take care of and tend the fields, and of course fall time to harvest, and then winter was time to preserve the things that you had stored and make them last till spring again. Now, in astrology, we look at these 4 important dates that are repeatable. They happen every year, and they are the spring equinox, the summer solstice, the fall equinox, and the winter solstice, okay? We have our zodiac signs all set up according to these solar events. In the springtime, when we have our spring equinox, March 21st, this is that time of year when the equator of the Earth is facing the sun, directly, and the Earth is level, so to speak. So, we are on an axis and the Earth tilts. At this point in the year, we're level. It's why you can spin an egg and it will spin. Now, that's the beginning of the zodiac year, and really should be the beginning of our year. It would make sense to have the time when we go from winter, where we have more darkness than light, to the time when it's equal. We have an equal amount of daylight and equal amount of darkness, and then we move into the time of the year, the spring, when we have more light and less darkness each day, okay, until we hit the summer solstice, when we have the most light, more light, and less of the darkness. So with the zodiac, your sun sign falls during a month between those 4 events. So your sun sign is going to fall into one of these segments, okay? We've got the 12 months divided up into 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, according to those solar events. And then in each of those sections, we have 3 zodiac signs, okay? Your sun sign is important in that it shows your general life force. If you think of the sun is the star in our solar system. It is the mass, the giant mass, relative to us anyway, that is holding our solar system together. Without the sun, without our star, we wouldn't be here, and if something happened to our sun, we would all die, we would perish. We eat food that's made from the energy of the sun. We are literally made of sun, which is pretty cool. Someone's sun sign shows you the basic premise upon which their personality is built. It's like a canvas that we're going to paint upon. It doesn't have any paint on it yet, it's just the canvas. Is it wood? Is it metal? Is it canvas? Is it a panel? Is it round? Is it square? How big is it? How little is it? The zodiac sign will sort of illuminate, and it will explain and make granular sort of this very basic part of what we have to work with, okay, with the personality. So it's the first step in building, when you're looking at an astrology birth chart, it's the first thing you look at because you're going to build upon it, all right? And then all the brushstrokes come with the moon and all the angular houses and the planets and the aspects between the planets. That's when it becomes a beautiful picture. But until then, it's just you're one of the 12 zodiac signs. This is very general. Sun signs are general. It's a general vibe. You've got someone who's kind of more of a feeler, someone who's more of a thinker. But there are all different types of feelers and there are all different types of thinkers, okay? We get that granularity by looking at the entire birth chart and by putting the 2 people together, okay? You can have a feeler and a thinker get together and be really happy if they've got other things in their birth chart that make nice compatibility interaspects. If for some reason your sun signs don't get along well, let's say we've got someone who is, I don't know, let's say we've got a Capricorn and an Aquarius, very different energies. Capricorn's conservative, Aquarius is an iconoclast and does their own thing. On the surface, sun sign-wise, these 2 aren't going to jive perfectly. But if you look underneath, maybe they have moons that are both in water, and it gives them an emotional warmth, or it gives them an emotional depth to the cooler Capricorn Aquarius facade. There's another thing you want to look at between your compatibility charts. There are several, but another important primary planetary aspect that you want to look at, or planetary placement, I should say, that you want to look at. And I'm going to talk about this at the end of the video, so stay tuned, watch the compatibility, and at the very end I'll explain to you how to find If your sun compatibility isn't great, there's another thing you can look at that will indicate whether or not the two of you are going to have long-lasting happiness together, or if it's going to be sort of a no-win battle, okay? All right, let's get on to our sun signs, and please leave me comments if you have questions, and this is going to be a lot of fun. Taurus are the individuals born April 20th through May 20th. Now, this is the time of year, if you were to imagine we're back 2,000 years and we're farming, this is the time of year we would be planting. We'd be planting our seeds, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, which is where this type of astrology comes from, Western astrology. Taurus is all about the possession. It's all about the five senses of our physical bodies and operating through this physical these three dimensions that we are here in. So Taurus, ruled by Venus, has to do with the sensual pleasures of the body, but also this idea that we can, as individual protagonists in our own story, possess things. So this is our money, this is our physical possessions, and this is also things more abstract, I suppose. Our self-esteem and our talents, the things that we possess inside of ourselves. Taurus sun signs are slower moving, predictable. They like things to unfold in a way where they know what to expect. And if you think about a farm and you think about planting seeds, you do them if you want to be productive with your farm. You plant them in rows and you do them a certain amount of space between each other and you water them regularly, and there's a consistency there, okay? There's a routine and an earthy sort of habit that is followed in order to be productive. Have a concrete, practical way of thinking, or way of being rather, because this is a sun sign. With a Taurus, you do have someone who's somewhat stubborn. They have in their mind a plan for how they'd like things to unfold, and they'll get there when they're going to get there, and you can't push them and prod them, okay? Now also, Taurus being ruled by Venus, these individuals appreciate nice things. A lot of times someone who has strong Taurus in their chart, they either like luxury items, they're highly motivated by working hard and making money, or they enjoy the arts, music, whether it's creating it or just listening to it and enjoying it and being a patron of the arts and music. These are very Taurus, and Taurus loves food. Again, and sex. This is the body, being in a body, having a spirit in this human form where we get to experience the pleasures of what comes with this body. On the high side with Taurus, we have steadfast, loyal, determined, artistic, usually. Sometimes they're not artistic. Sometimes it comes out in other ways, like it comes out in the enjoyment of the arts or the enjoyment of food and these things I've talked about before, the five senses. They are understanding and affectionate. They're calm. They like peace and harmony in their relationships. Okay, this is Venusian. They're practical, sensual, passionate people. Their passion is different than the Aries passion. The passion of a Taurus is more slower moving and sensual, and it's more consistent. You know, Aries, the sign we did earlier, would just kind of flare up, whereas Taurus is going to come out slowly and sensually. Now, on the shadow side, or if you've got a low-functioning Taurus, you can have someone who's stubborn, who's materialistic, who's hedonistic. You know, they are focused way too much on the outside and not on the inside. There's an unmovable nature to a shadow, low-functioning Taurus. They can be possessive, afraid of change. They have a really strong need for security, and so they're afraid to sort of break out from situations they know aren't best for them. So they can overstay bad relationships or bad situations at work, or just life situations, just be in the same career for years that they don't like, but it's the devil you know is safer than the devil you don't know. And they can be a little lazy and a little vain. That's our Venus. Now, this is low functioning. Taurus in love. Taurus appreciates beauty, all right? Taurus sun signs, whether it's male or female, whatever their personal idea of beauty is, they will have, it's going to be high on their list of things that will matter to them. They need to be physically attracted to their partner. They are quite lusty and sensual. The sun sign, once they have gotten to know someone, once they've decided that this is the one for them, they're affectionate, and the way they show their love is through they do enjoy giving their partner gifts, sharing things with them, but also really affection and sex. There's a possessiveness to a Taurus. They're on the axis of possession with a Scorpio as well. So they can at times be a little bit possessive, and they need to know that their partner is theirs. So they can have some issues with security and needing to feel safe and secure. Taurus expectations in love. Taurus types, Taurus sun signs, they're looking for security, and they're looking for a relationship that is grounded in reality. They wouldn't really be stoked about a relationship that was like based on the internet, you know, like a long distance relationship, unless you had a Taurus with a ton of Aquarius in their chart, and that's a whole other story. But for the most part, Taurus, pure Taurus sun sign, they like to have you there in their presence. They want someone to build a life with. They want harmony. They want to enjoy the daily pleasures with their partner. They like good food. They like a nice regular sex life. They like to dance in the kitchen while they're cooking dinner together. They just want simple, authentic, real love. Okay, that's their expectations, and they expect loyalty. So you give that to them, and you have got a happy bull. Now, Taurus's biggest fear, they worry about security. This is why you've got a sun sign that's so focused on making money or proving themselves through their ability to be successful or have control over their ability to create income. That's why it's underneath it is an insecurity, a worry that they will be without. So this includes the partner. They do have a fear of their partner leaving them. And so they need a partner that is consistent, steady, does what they say they're going to do, shows up when they're supposed to, and is reliable. Ultimately, that will put their heart at ease and keep them happy and harmonious. So May 21st through to June 20th. You'd be a Gemini sun. Gemini is a zodiac sign ruled by Mercury, and I always think of a flock of birds chirping at each other and talking to each other. Gemini energy is really busy. We've got Mercury, which orbits the sun in 88 days. That's the year. That's a year for Mercury, right? It's very quick. So Mercury types, whether it's a Gemini or it's a Virgo, they have a nervous energy to them and a busyness. Gemini applies it a little bit more to the mind, but Virgo does too. But it's communication. It's this sort of extroversion of this busyness. So a Gemini will, when they text you, or anyone who has a lot of Gemini in their chart, it's like long texts, or they'll keep in touch with you, or they really need communication from their partner. They need that kind of contact. That's what they're good at. Also, Geminis, they need to be moving. They love to try new things. They always have new ideas. They're quite bubbly and refreshing, and they can change their minds a lot and change their life direction a lot because they almost have too many ideas and too many things going on. They can also be a little bit fidgety, mentally and physically, a little ADD. It's kind of a Mercury trait. So with our high-functioning Geminis, we have someone who's easy and breezy. They've got a cheerfulness, a versatility to them. They're good at multitasking. They're rational for the most part. There are other things to look at in the chart that will suggest otherwise, but they're open to new experiences. They're spontaneous and fun, and they've got a good sense of humor. Happy, happy-go-lucky. That's very Gemini. If you're pure Gemini, they don't wade too much in those deeper waters of deep emotion and existentialist feeling or thought, okay? Now, a low-functioning Gemini, on the low side, they can be overly loquacious, right? They can text you too much. They can maybe not recognize when it's time to just we don't have to be talking the whole time. We can sit in silence. Remember, you need to look at the person's moon sign, their Mercury, and other things in their chart and see where that sun is actually placed, which house it's placed in. That's going to adjust this because Gemini is mutable, so it's quite overridable by other signs that are in the birth chart. Talkative. And if they're not extroverted with their talkativeness, then it's happening inside of them. Okay, so they're going to analyze everything, and they're going to have a lot going on inside of them. So it's almost like the quiet Gemini is the one you really need to worry about because there's even more going on inside of them than the one that's extroverting it. All right, they have an anxiety to them. They can be flirty, not really anything necessarily meant by it, but they are quite flirty with the opposite sex. It can be hard to pin down. They can have problems with commitment. They can have like a Peter Pan thing happening where they just want to be like a little kid for forever and they won't grow up and, like buckle down to the realities of life. So they can be a little bit childish in a different way than Aries. It's kind of like they just don't want to take things seriously. They want to be free to... It's almost even just they change their minds so much that they can't just stay focused on one path, okay? All right, so on to Gemini in love. Geminis like things to be fresh, light, bubbly, like I've said, you know, they're little butterflies flittering about from flower to flower. In love, they enjoy conversation. They have to have conversation. They have to have communication, whether it is verbal, whether it is written through text or letters, or sharing music with each other, or sharing poetry or things that have been read. You know, they are always like talking to someone. You know, true Gemini is quite talkative and social, and sometimes in romantic relationships, because they have this sweetness to them and this lightness and easiness, when they really fall in love with someone, they're not quite sure what to do with these feelings. It's kind of like, oh, geez, like a chakra area, right? This is where they operate. And it brings them down into the part of the body where there are no words. They can't put words on the feelings they're feeling. And that is really uncomfortable for someone who is used to and excels at putting words to things. So many times they run from commitment because they don't know what to do with it. They're like, what is this thing, okay? So in love, Geminis many times have a harder time with people who are perhaps more watery or more feelers, this kind of thing. You know, they like to keep things light. And again, look at the other signs in the chart. Look at where that sun is placed to give you an indicator. If you've got someone who's got multiple planets and air signs, then that's what we're talking about, okay? Okay. Okay. All right, Geminis in love, their expectations. Let me edit that. Gemini's expectations in love. So they need space, but they also need a lot of conversation and repartee and connection, which is a funny little thing, right? They just need space to know they can go and like wander off and do their little thing and then come back. They've learned some new things and you've got to learn some new things. You have new stuff to talk about, new things to enjoy together, okay? They like jokes. They have like a little naughty sense of humor. They love playing together. They don't like emotional mind games. They do not like passive aggression. The water signs rule that realm, okay? The water signs are like professional at passive aggression and emotional manipulation. Geminis are just going to be like, what are you doing? That doesn't work for me. And then they'll just flit off somewhere else, okay? You can't tie them down. If you try to tie them down, you are fighting a losing battle. So, okay. Also, they don't like feeling a sense that their partner's leaning on them for their emotional validation. You know, Gemini, they need a partner who is strong on their own, who is interested in so many things. They're going a million miles a minute, and they got so much stuff going on in their head, and they, you know, going all these different directions, and they have this genius to them, you know, this Gemini Mercury quickness and quicksilver thing happening. They're afraid that maybe they really don't have the emotional depth, okay? A lot of times Geminis have been accused by loved ones in their lives that you know, can't you take this seriously? Why can't you commit to me? You know, these kinds of things. And the Gemini, this is an issue for them, something that they really worry about because, as I said earlier, that heart space is not their natural habitat, okay? They are cerebral and they are, you know, throat chakra, they're communicators. Heart stuff, intuition, this does not have words. So unless that Gemini has some strong placements in their chart, that they need some water placements or even some fire, which will bring them down into their body at least, or earth. You know, this is going to be a fear of theirs. They're going to worry that they don't have emotional depth. So don't ever accuse them of being shallow, right? See them and meet them where they're at and help them put words to their feelings. Help them put words to the things that they can't voice, okay? That's how you can help them overcome this fear and help them to grow. That's it for partners leaning on them for their emotional validation. You know, Gemini, they need a partner who is strong on their own, who, you know, doesn't need to be validated by them. You can't be clingy with a Gemini. That doesn't work for them. Okay, so Gemini's biggest fear. Now, because we have someone who is quite flighty, and they can be shallow at times, or they can appear shallow. It's just because they're interested in so many things. They're going a million miles a minute, and they got so much stuff going on in their head, and they, you know, going all these different directions, and they have this genius to them, you know, this Gemini Mercury quickness and quicksilver thing happening. They're afraid that maybe they really don't have the emotional depth, okay? A lot of times Geminis have been accused by loved ones in their lives that you know, can't you take this seriously? Why why can't you commit to me? You know, these kinds of things. And the Gemini, this is an issue for them, that something that they really worry about, because as I said earlier, that heart space is not their natural habitat. Okay, they are cerebral, and they are, you know, throat chakra, they're communicators, heart stuff, intuition. This does not have words. So unless that Gemini has some strong placements in their chart, that they need some water placements or even some fire, which will bring them down into their body at least, or earth. You know, this is going to be a fear of theirs. They're going to worry that they don't have emotional depth. So don't ever accuse them of being shallow, right? See them and meet them where they're at, and help them put words to their feelings. Help them put words to the things that they can't voice, okay? That's how you can help them overcome this fear and help them to grow. It for all right, Taurus and Gemini. This is kind of an odd pairing. You've got two people who are quite different from one another, unless you're looking at things that are happening with their moon signs. The sun signs themselves are quite different. So you've got one ego who is we'll talk about our Taurus, a little more fixed and solid and earthy and dependable, and expects things to, like, prefers when things are sort of consistent. Then you have the other person who is quite mercurial, has a quick mind, likes things to change, has a lot of, which is our Gemini, needs multiplicity of experiences or people or projects. So whereas Taurus likes to kind of focus on one thing at a time. So, you know, this could be one of those situations where it's what both people, what they lack, you know, they're attractive to one another because they're different from one another. Oh, hi, guy. But then looking at these two, as far as long-term interactions, this is the exact thing that's going to sort of get on both parties' nerves. They are, again, quite different. Taurus needs more consistency. Taurus is going to want commitment, and Taurus is going to want to feel like their earth isn't being yanked out from underneath them all the time. Whereas Gemini is really all about this bouncing around of energy, and Gemini has more of a need for freedom and a lot of different social contacts, more so than even Taurus. Again, depending on the moons, just for generalizing for the sun signs. So now conflicts and harmony. Conflicts for these two would be what I've just mentioned, just sort of that fundamental difference in temperament. And another conflict could be the Gemini getting tired of the Taurus not sort of trying new things or being more adventurous, and the Taurus can get tired of the Gemini always moving at this sort of frenetic pace. And can't you just calm down? Can't you just sit down? Can't you just, you know, or stop worrying about that? Or, you know, the Taurus will they run at different speeds, you see. Now on harmony, the harmony side of things, Taurus is a sign that is consistent and grounded. So I can see this being good for the Gemini in the sense that it will give them someone who sort of grounds them and gets them kind of to focus on something, or helps them to sort of take all of their ideas, and instead of being all over the place with them, will help them sort of refine and create a single path for those ideas. Harmony, another thing that could be an area of harmony for Gemini and Taurus. Gemini as a sun sign is not, you know, inherently something we associate with being super sexual, other than the fact that Gemini does appreciate flirting, which is sort of the precursor. So Taurus, though, is interested in kind of the actual sensual act itself and the pleasures of the body. So, you know, these two both kind of have higher interests in relating, and so that can be good for their sex life. It can be, they both bring something sort of different to the bedroom. Yeah. How others will see their relationship, I mean, this is kind of an odd coupling. Either way, whether it's, you know, male Taurus, female Gemini, or female Taurus, male Gemini, or a homosexual couple, or whatever combination it is. With these two, people are going to see these two as just how did that happen? This makes me think of Jack Sprat and his wife. It's kind of this, like, it's just a weird combination of people, of human beings. So unless, again, they have some really happy, harmonious moons, then it would make sense. But otherwise, it just is going to feel a little odd.